15 years ago from today, on June 25th, 2009, at around 12 noon, Michael Jackson was given certain sedative drugs by his personal doctor, and as a result of those drugs, Michael Jackson died. The doctor claims that he administered these drugs only because Michael Jackson was suffering from insomnia and had personally asked for them. However, even today, Michael's fans and family firmly believe that Michael was murdered. Now, here's what actually happened. One day before his death, on June 24th, 2009, Michael was rehearsing for a concert. It is important to note that this was going to be the final concert of his life. The concert was titled This Is It, and it was scheduled to take place in July at the O2 Arena in London. This concert was especially important to Michael because he had not performed live for many years. After taking a break from the music industry due to child abuse allegations, this was meant to be his first and last concert. Michael Jackson was also excited because his children were going to see him perform live for the very first time. Let's take a look at some important locations related to this incident. In Los Angeles, USA, this is Michael Jackson's home, located at 100 North Carrollwood Drive. Approximately 28 kilometers away from this house is the Staples Center, where Michael was rehearsing. The distance between Michael Jackson's rented home and the rehearsal location could be covered in about 24 minutes. Now let's talk about the night of June 24th, 2009, around 12 a.m. After finishing his rehearsal, Michael leaves for his home at 100 North Carrollwood Drive. At around 12:30 a.m., Michael arrives home. As soon as he returns, Michael goes straight to the kitchen and sits at the dining table to have dinner. The woman you see here is Kai Chase, Michael Jackson's personal nutritionist and chef. In fact, she prepared Michael's dinner that night. After finishing his meal, Michael goes to his bedroom. In the bedroom, Michael tries very hard to sleep, but he cannot. Michael was suffering from insomnia, which means he had trouble sleeping, and that is why he was unable to fall asleep. Meanwhile, Michael's personal physician, Conrad Murray, enters the house. It is important to know that Conrad Murray was specially hired by the This Is It concert organizers specifically for Michael. Because Michael suffered from insomnia, he could not sleep without medication. Michael Jackson had a habit of taking medication every night in order to sleep. Because of this, he had a separate medication room built inside his suite, right next to his bedroom. Just like every other night, on the night of June 24th, Michael was once again unable to sleep. That is why he goes into his medication room. At this point, it is around 1 a.m., and Conrad Murray is preparing the sleeping medication in that room. While Conrad Murray is preparing the medicines, it's important to understand that he regularly administered an anesthetic called Propofol to Michael. It was specifically to give this drug that Conrad came to Michael Jackson's house every night. Around 1:30 a.m., as he did on other nights, Conrad first gives Michael anesthetics such as diazepam, lorazepam, and midazolam. But shockingly, none of these medications work because Michael Jackson is still unable to fall asleep. After that, Conrad gives Michael several more injections, but even those have no effect. This entire process of trying to induce sleep with medications continues for nearly 8 to 10 hours. And then finally, the moment everyone feared arrives. Michael asks Conrad for milk. Here, the word milk is being used to refer to Propofol, which we mentioned earlier. Propofol is a type of anesthetic that doctors typically use during surgeries. At first, Conrad refuses to give Michael this drug, but at around 10:40 in the morning, due to Michael Jackson's insistence, Conrad finally administers 25 milligrams of Propofol, diluted with lidocaine. Eventually, Michael Jackson falls asleep. After seeing Michael asleep, Conrad goes to the bathroom. When he returns a short while later, he is completely shocked. Conrad sees that Michael's pulse is very weak and that he is no longer breathing. In other words, Michael's body is showing no response at all. Seeing this, Conrad begins to panic because the person lying in front of him is not just anyone. It is Michael Jackson. In an attempt to save Michael, Conrad starts doing everything he can. However, in a critical mistake, Conrad performs CPR on Michael for a total of 10 minutes, which turns out to be a very serious error. After that, Conrad assumes that the dose of Propofol may have been too high. So, to reduce the effects of Propofol, he injects another drug called flumazenil into Michael's body. Flumazenil is a medication used to counteract or reverse sedative overdoses. But even after all these medications, Michael still shows no response at all. When nothing works, Conrad starts calling out loudly for help. However, no one hears him. By this point, Conrad is extremely panicked. In his panic, at around 12 noon, he runs downstairs shouting and tells Kai, "Get help! Get security! Get Prince!" After saying this, he immediately rushes back to Michael's room. A frightened Kai leaves everything and brings Michael's eldest son, Prince. At that time, Prince was 12 years old and was playing with his siblings in the den. Kai had no idea what exactly she was supposed to do. She simply brought Prince upstairs. Meanwhile, Conrad returns to Michael's room and at around 12:15 p.m., he calls Michael Amir Williams. Michael Amir was Michael Jackson's personal assistant. Conrad asks Michael Amir to bring help and security. However, Michael Amir was not present at the house at that time. Since he was not at the house, Michael Amir then calls Alberto Alvarez, who was Michael Jackson's personal security guard. As soon as the call connects, Alberto rushes toward Michael Jackson's room. When he enters, he sees Michael Jackson lying on the bed. Michael's mouth and eyes are both open, and he is lying on the bed in a completely unresponsive state. Seeing all of this, Alberto immediately calls 911. As soon as the 911 call is made, the operator instructs them to move Michael Jackson's body from the bed onto the floor and begin CPR. Although Conrad was already performing CPR, Michael's body showed absolutely no response. At this point, something else very strange happens. Conrad asks Alberto to hide the medical items. However, Alberto refuses to do so. Following this, Conrad himself collects all the medical equipment into a bag and hides those items in different places around the house. Later, during the investigation, these bags are recovered. Meanwhile, Fahim Muhammad, Michael Jackson's bodyguard, also arrives in Michael's room. Seeing Michael's condition, he is completely shaken. Now, all three of them begin doing everything they possibly can to revive Michael. Around 12:30 p.m., a team of paramedics, emergency medical responders, rushes into Michael Jackson's room. One of them, Richard Seneff, later described this scene in court. He stated that when he arrived, Conrad did not appear to be in his senses at all. The paramedics also begin performing CPR on Michael, but there is still no response. The team then prepares to transport Michael to the hospital. Downstairs, everyone in the house, Kai, the rest of Michael's staff, and all three of his children stand together in one place. A short while later, around 1 p.m., the paramedics bring Michael Jackson downstairs. The people present try to ask the paramedics what is happening, but no one gives them any answers. Michael Jackson is taken to Ronald Reagan UCLA Medical Center. Doctors make every possible attempt to save him, but Michael shows no response of any kind. At 2:30 p.m., Michael Jackson is officially pronounced dead. Due to a mistake made by his personal doctor, the King of Pop, the world-famous singer and dancer Michael Jackson leaves this world. But the question remains, was this simply a tragic mistake, or was it a carefully planned conspiracy? In this video, we will step-by-step understand why many people believe that Michael Jackson was murdered. Why did personal Dr. Conrad not call 911 immediately? How did Michael develop insomnia, and how did he become addicted to sedative drugs? We will also understand why he became so obsessed with plastic surgeries. And most importantly, how many of the child abuse allegations made against Michael were actually true. On August 29, 1958, Michael Jackson was born into a struggling middle-class family. Michael Jackson's father, Joseph Jackson, was a crane operator. His mother, Catherine Jackson, was a homemaker. They had 9 children: Rebby, Jackie, Tito, Jermaine, LaToya, Marlon, Janet, and Michael. Out of these 9 children, only 5, Jackie, Tito, Jermaine, Marlon, and Michael, formed a band at their father's insistence. The band was called the Jackson 5. Michael Jackson's father strongly believed that if someone wanted to make money quickly, there was no better option than the entertainment industry. Even today, we can see many examples of children being pushed into the entertainment world. As a result, the group became extremely popular. And at that time, the Jackson 5 created a sensation around the world. But among all 5 brothers, Michael stood out the most and grabbed the most attention. He was the youngest, and he had the strongest grip on both dancing and singing. Michael himself knew that he always wanted to be a performer. He loved entertaining people on stage. That is why he also focused on building his solo career, releasing solo songs from time to time. His hard work paid off in 1979, when his solo career got its biggest breakthrough with the release of Off the Wall. The album was produced in collaboration with Quincy Jones at Epic Records. This partnership between Quincy Jones and Michael Jackson proved to be extremely successful for Michael. Once Michael realized that he could build his career on his own, after a lot of thought, he decided to leave the Jackson 5 in 1984. From that point on, he fully focused on his solo career. Very soon, Michael Jackson began to emerge as the King of Pop. Through the same partnership, he delivered iconic albums like Off the Wall, Thriller, Bad, Dangerous, and History, songs that the world still dances to today. And yes, his legendary moonwalk, something that remains nearly impossible to match, was something Michael had been practicing since childhood. Although the world officially noticed his moonwalk for the first time on March 25, 1983, during a live performance, When it comes to Michael Jackson's fan following, Michael himself once revealed in a documentary that nearly 5,000 people used to faint during his concerts. People were so obsessed with him that fans would climb onto the stage just to see him up close during live shows. You can even see an example of this in the footage. One fan risked his life by climbing a crane just to see Michael. Seeing this kind of love, Michael Jackson hugged the fan. But as glamorous as Michael's life may seem, it was not that simple. Two major accidents completely changed his life. The first incident occurred in 1984 during the shooting of a Pepsi commercial. As seen in the footage, Michael was standing behind a metal gate when a small firework went off. A spark from that firework landed in Michael Jackson's hair. At first, he didn't even realize what had happened. But slowly, the fire spread to his scalp, causing severe third-degree burns. These two accidents in Michael's life were so severe that, as a result, he developed insomnia as well as a drug addiction. Now, there is one thing about Michael Jackson that almost everyone in the world knows, and that is his plastic surgeries. Michael was extremely obsessed with plastic surgery. Although he never publicly admitted to having multiple surgeries, he did openly talk about one procedure, his nose surgery. Michael underwent nose surgery so many times that an average person couldn't even imagine having that many in an entire lifetime. Michael disliked his nose since childhood, and the reason behind this was his father. Michael's father had a very harsh nature. At a very young age, he pushed all of his children into the entertainment industry so that he could support a family of 10. With this mindset, Michael's father always treated his children like trainees, not like kids. He didn't even allow them to call him dad. During practice sessions, he would beat the children so badly that their mother, Catherine, had to step in and stop him. Because of all this, Michael developed a villain-like image of his father in his mind. He deeply feared and hated him. Just hearing his father's name would make Michael tremble. Not only that, Michael's father also created deep insecurity in him about his nose. He would say things like, "That kind of nose didn't come from my family. You got that ugly nose from your mother." To overcome this insecurity, Michael got his first nose surgery, or rhinoplasty, in 1979. Although Michael claimed that his nose was broken in an accident, and that's why he needed surgery, the reality is something everyone knows. Michael was not satisfied with the first surgery, so he got another rhinoplasty in 1983. However, this caused him breathing problems. Because of that, he underwent another nose surgery in 1986. After that, the cycle never stopped. Sometimes the face, sometimes the chin, then the nose again, and eventually, the entire face. It almost started to look like Michael had become obsessed with plastic surgery to the point of constantly altering his appearance. Because of these surgeries, Michael frequently stayed in the headlines. Many people tried to take advantage of his fame. One of the first names on that list was Eminem. In 2004, the famous rapper Eminem mocked Michael in one of his songs. He made fun of the tragic accidents Michael had suffered, the one where his hair caught fire and the one where his spine was damaged. Many other things were also used in that entire music video to mock Michael in different ways. In response, Michael Jackson did not say anything at that time. But in 2007, he made a move that completely shocked everyone. At that time, Jackson had a deal with Sony, through which he acquired the rights to Eminem's music catalog. This meant that every time Eminem performed or earned from his songs, a portion of the profit would also go to Michael Jackson. However, despite being this smart, Michael made one very serious mistake. This incident took place on November 19, 2002, on the balcony of a hotel room in Berlin, Germany. During this incident, Michael held his youngest son, Blanket, over the hotel balcony while trying to show him to fans below. Because of this, Michael was heavily criticized and trolled. The reason was that some fans began copying his actions. In fact, one woman literally held her own child over a balcony simply because Michael had done it. This shows that there is no shortage of foolish behavior in the world. However, after this entire incident, Michael issued a public apology because he was deeply ashamed. He became so consumed by guilt that he locked himself in a room for several days. This was later revealed by his bodyguard in an interview. Apart from Eminem, Michael also had serious issues with Sony. The main reason for this dispute was Sony's then chairman, Tommy Mottola. This conflict was not based on just one issue, but several, including artistic control, financial interests, and allegations of racial discrimination. Michael claimed that Tommy Mottola discriminated against him based on his race and status. The situation escalated in 2002 when Michael publicly stated that Tommy Mottola was a racist and an evil person. In one speech, Michael even said that Mottola and Sony deliberately discriminated against black artists and wanted to suppress their growth. Kanye West also supported this claim. Kanye believed that the conspiracy behind Michael Jackson's death was extremely dangerous, and he even shared this belief publicly through a tweet. One more important thing you should know is that Michael Jackson loved children very deeply. The love that Michael never received from his father during childhood, he wanted to give that love to children all around the world. That is why he created a world for himself, where he could relive his lost childhood. This world was called Neverland Ranch. Although Michael owned many homes, he spent most of his time at Neverland Ranch. There were several reasons behind creating this place. Michael wanted to build his own private zoo because he loved animals very much. So he built a zoo inside Neverland Ranch. He also wanted every child who visited to experience all the joys of childhood, which is why he built an amusement park inside his home. Michael himself used to play with the children there. It was often seen that he became a child among children, swinging with them and spending long hours playing. But imagine what happens when a person who spends 24 hours surrounded by children gets accused of abusing those very children. That is exactly what happened to Michael Jackson. In 1993, a dentist named Evan Chandler accused Michael of child abuse. Evan claimed that Michael had molested his son, Jordan Chandler. Because of these allegations, police raided Michael Jackson's home on December 22, 1993. A normal investigation would have been one thing, but the situation crossed the line when Michael was forced to undergo a full-body nude examination. Michael later spoke about this in a video, saying that it was one of the most dehumanizing and humiliating investigations he had ever faced in his life.
Before you label or condemn me, don't treat me like a criminal, because I am innocent. I have been forced to submit to a dehumanizing and humiliating examination by the Santa Barbara County Sheriff. View and photograph my body, including my penis, my buttocks, my lower torso, thighs, and any other area that they wanted.
The outcome of this case was that Michael paid the Chandler family $25 million without any allegations being legally proven. Michael stated that he paid this money only for the well-being of Jordan Chandler. Later, in 2003, Michael met a cancer patient named Gavin Arvizo. Gavin was a huge fan of Michael and had wanted to meet him for a long time. To fulfill this wish, Michael invited Gavin along with his parents, brother, and sister to Neverland Ranch. However, this meeting was portrayed in a very misleading way in a documentary made by journalist Martin Bashir. Ironically, Bashir was considered a close friend of Michael. It would not be wrong to say that what an enemy could not do, a friend did. This documentary deeply disturbed Michael. In an interview, he said that he never expected such behavior from Martin Bashir. The documentary portrayed Michael as a child abuser in front of the world. In short, all the child abuse allegations made against Michael Jackson turned out to be false. Not a single one of them was proven. Now finally, let's understand why many people believe that Michael Jackson was murdered. Let's assume for a moment that Michael did ask for extra Propofol. Even then, what kind of doctor was Conrad Murray? The first major mistake Conrad made can be seen in this photo. This is the same room where Michael lived. In the room, you can see an oxygen cylinder, anesthetics, a bag valve mask, and various medicines. But what you do not see is a target-controlled infusion, TCI pump. Whenever high-level anesthetics are administered, this instrument is extremely important. If the anesthetic causes an adverse reaction, this machine is used to control it. In addition, equipment like a pulse oximeter, non-invasive blood pressure monitor, ECG, and capnography are also essential. But none of these machines were present in Michael's room. The second mistake was that Conrad did not perform CPR correctly. Without checking whether Michael had respiratory failure or cardiac arrest, Conrad immediately began chest compression, CPR. In this situation, Michael needed advanced medical intervention. The third mistake was that despite being a doctor, Conrad did not stop Michael from taking excessive amounts of Propofol. Overall, Conrad Murray was sentenced to 4 years in prison for medical negligence. However, no one was legally convicted for Michael Jackson's death. Even today, Michael's fans believe that he was murdered. But what happened inside Michael's room that day was such a private event that the court could not find enough evidence against Dr. Conrad Murray.